again and welcome. Welcome to Leading Ladies, Leaving Legacies. And I am Joy Ruffin. My work is as a leadership and style consultant, a signature style specialist, speaker, executive producer, TV host, and podcaster. And I work with women all over the world who want to amp up their wow factor. And tonight, oh my goodness, my featured guest speaker is going to share a lot with us about the women that she's working with. And we have such an alignment because we're all about the empowerment of women. So what I want you to do is just to sit back and relax, whatever that means to you. And I want to tell you a little bit about Georgia Reash before I bring her up. She is a trauma healing artist, an organizational consultant, and developer of sustainable communities. I love that. There's so much to share with her. She has worked as a poet, a playwright, an artist, author, and a lecturer, inspired by her empowerment journey, which we're going to talk a wee bit about tonight. So, my friends, you know that here in Leading Ladies, Leaving Legacies, we're all about the empowerment of women, all of us who are ready to have our awakening and to share our wisdom and love with others. So sit back and relax and help me welcome our featured guest speaker tonight, Georgia Reash. Georgia, hello and welcome.
Hi, Joy. Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here, really.
Georgia, I am excited to have you here. I get more excited sometimes than my guests, and I'm learning to calm myself down. It's not easy because when I ran across your bio and read what you were about and saw what you were doing, I said, I have to meet this lovely lady because the work that you're doing is phenomenal. And we have so much to talk about in so little time. So give us just a brief synopsis about how you came to do your background, the work that you're doing now.
Thanks so much. Well, it's hard to encapsulate 60 years, and that is how long I have been on the planet thus far.
Uh-huh.
Hoping for another 60 years, actually, if you want to know the truth. But if I could
Yes.
kind of summarize the work that I'm doing right now and how I got here in brief, I call myself a healing placemaker. And that is expressed, as you mentioned, through my art with women and in my work with art and in poetry. But making healing places is really at the core of whatever I do with women, in the work I do with organizations and in communities. Now, how I became a healing placemaker, of course, was inspired by my own journey of healing. And that
Yes.
usually is the story of powerful women, where our stories become our purpose and how that purpose becomes manifest in our lives through our work. So for me, I think I was the original incubating center for becoming a healing place. I was like
Uh-huh.
that butterfly, and from there, through that journey, I've come to find ways to express that.
I love that, George, and I love the way that you explain that to us. I know a little bit more in depth about that background, which when people get to know you, they'll find out a little bit more. But of all you said, it all has impact and meaning. But what I like that ties into where I want to start us off, because you gave me, because this is so much my belief as well, limitless possibilities within all of us. When women heal themselves, the inner sovereign power and the return of the artist, the archetype, the goddess. I love that because that is my sole belief. I believe that all women are goddesses. And I think that we have to get back to knowing that sovereign power that emanates from within us. So tell us a little bit about how you came to speak those words and to voice those words and to have that as part of your platform.
What was interesting, when I was 40 years old, 20 years ago, I had a major life changing event. I had a major
Uh-huh.
mental health breakdown, in all honesty, kind of because of the
Yes.
past that I experienced with trauma. And my whole world kind of blew apart all in 1 year. And I remember sitting down with a therapist at that time, and she asked me directly, "What are you most afraid of, Georgia?" And I said, "I'm afraid of my power." And then she asked me, "What does it look like?" And I had no idea. I had achieved many things. I had success. I had a husband at that time, a family, but I couldn't even conceptualize who I looked like as a powerful woman. And yet I knew I was thirsty for it. I was
Yes.
longing for her. And I was so dumbfounded because she didn't answer me. Like that was the point. I had to discover what power meant to me. And even that word goddess felt so far away 20 years ago. And so that really has been my story of healing. And I've worked very hard over the last 20 years to deprogram, to relearn, to reconstruct, to define myself on my terms as a woman.
Georgia, you're speaking to the choir. What you just said resonated with me. You said, I'm afraid of my power. I almost used the same verbiage in a different way several years ago. And that marinated within my soul. And I really know, I don't think, I know for sure with certainty that so many of us women, especially today, from what I see, are running away from that innate God-given power that is within us, that sovereign power. So I receive that. And there's so much of a charade and a facade about that pseudo power. We're not talking about that. We're talking about this buzzword for 2023, authentic power. And that's what you're talking about. And the healing of that and the work that you're doing with the healing and the abuse of women and girls, trauma healing is part of rebalancing the power within them. How are you doing that? And I love the word, community, because isn't it all about family, relationships, and community? No matter which umbrella you go under, they're all intertwined and connected. So what is the work and how are you supporting those who need more guidance and direction to get to their innate sovereign power?
Well, you and I chatted earlier about that first core step of self-love. And I
Yes.
I think there's a step before self-love, and that is self-awareness.
Woo.
Because without self-awareness and even self-reflection, because the reflecting causes the awareness, without any of that, we can't even examine where our love of self is lacking or where it is empty. So, that first step of thinking about what self love is, and how to remember it, because I believe it's all planned. And, I really believe we're all born as we're just born as baby goddesses. We're divine, and that just morphs over time because of our influences. So to remember that is really the first core step of our natural divinity, our natural embodiment of being loved and delighted in the eyes of God. And
Georgia,
that,
I believe that as well. I
yeah,
believe that as well. I believe that we pop out of that womb, and even before we pop, that we are all goddesses, and that we all. But you mentioned something that I want to get back to because I'm very much into the semantics of words. Never
okay.
to impress, always to be able to be more expressive, to communicate with more clarity. I always say, know thyself, self love. Yet when you said self awareness, I'm aware. But why and how does one come to that self awareness? It's really taking a look in that mirror or being honest with yourself. But how are you separating self awareness from self love? They are aligned, they're connected, they're kissing cousins, they belong together, but one before the other. And you're the first person that I've heard mention it in that way. So qualify for me a little bit about how one comes to self-awareness that leads to self-love.
Well,
If
yeah, it's interesting. I've thought a lot about it because without the act of self-awareness, you can't even get to love. We have to be able
ah
we have to be able to reflect upon ourselves, know thyself, in other words. And
yes,
if we don't make that a priority of our daily life to know myself, how can I even examine again what is lacking or what is fulfilled? So I believe most people start on their journey, a lot of people start from a point of crisis. We have
yes,
symptoms in our life that
mhm,
let us know we are off balance, whether that's in ourselves, in our relationships, in our bodies, in our addictions, whatever. The symptoms of our lives tell us where we are at. And from there, if we really, for me, I really had to look at the symptoms of my life at that point in time and say, who am I in this place and time because I'm not happy with it? In other words, at one point, I remember saying, looking in the mirror and saying, I'm going to get rid of everything. that isn't working for me anymore.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And that takes real self awareness to go in and say, what's working? What is a lie? What is not working? What do I tell myself that is working, but is not really the truth? So that time with the self, that time, that
Well,
beautiful cocoon time with the self, is where it all starts, in my opinion.
I can agree with that. I think what happens is many of us, most of us, make excuse after excuse after excuse about what is working and what isn't working.
Yeah.
And that honesty, that
Yes.
I honesty and integrity, there again, semantics of words. I go more for the integrity of an individual, because once you have that, the honesty just takes its seat. But until you have that, you it's difficult sometimes for many of us to be honest with ourselves about any and every and all things. But I get that. I think that the work that you're doing as far as the healing and working with women to get them to see that sovereign power within them so that they can step into their power, knowing that we're here to be true equals to the masculine that's dominated since the beginning of time. And there's no blame there. So tell me about, how do you align that with power and leadership for women today?
Ooh, that's a big question. Well, before I started this journey, or before the journey was thrust upon me,
Yes.
the journey, we don't necessarily choose life changes, they happen, our soul calls for them, I believe. So before that, I thought I was a powerful person. I had a very big company, I was making good money, and I had a house in the suburbs. So my definition of power was different
Yes.
before my awakening journey. And now that definition, um, it has nothing to do with those things, although those things are the manifest reality of what comes from within. I don't evaluate my worth on those things anymore, mostly because I went through a period of life where I had to lose everything. I lost everything financially, and I went through a long period of time with nothing. And yet, that's when I had to connect to my everything. And what a strange story that always is, when you lose everything and you find everything at the same time. It's like you have to work with what you have to work with, which is you, or in my case, me. What do I have to work with?
You
So
know,
that
Georgia,
power. Oh, I'm sorry. Go
yes.
ahead.
No, no. What you're speaking to is so powerful, because what you're saying is that for most of us, the understanding and the true acceptance of what power is all about, and the power of having money and security with that, we have misconstrued what it really means. We need money. You can't live without it. And power is can be an aphrodisiac unless you really get the nuances of what it means, especially if you're in leadership and you're working with others. You can really go astray. And
Right.
so that's why when we started off here and you share with us about self-awareness before you get to self-love is so important. And that's the knowing of self. But that's a time factor, right? Because women in leadership today, many of us, not all, never all, are taking up the banner and taking the leadership with the masculine role. That's not what we're here to do as a divine feminine. So power for us it's power is power, but it has a different nuance from male dominated power. And
Yes.
so
Yeah.
until we get that, I'm wondering, how are we going to awaken to the God-given power that we come here with? And what you said about losing everything to gain it, this is what we find when we read through history and we see all of the people here in our generation who have that, and they're miserable, and yet
Mhm.
then they lose it and they get it. This is just a ball of confusion for so many. So
Right.
what is how are you working with families and relationships, communities, to get women who are in leadership roles to get to the understanding of the balance of power and how to use it and utilize it?
I spent a long time thinking about, I felt called, being called to heal
Yes,
and make healing places is my
I get
calling.
that.
So I spent a long time thinking about how to make that happen. And for whatever reasons, when I went through my life crisis 20 years ago, I became an artist. I was never an artist. I
Oh,
I mean, it became my therapy, and I think I shared with you that I've been using my art and my poetry as a really interesting vehicle for opening that
yes,
door of awareness.
yes.
One of my shows that I have is called 53 Vaginas and Vulvas.
I
And
love that.
I know it's an exhibit of 53 vaginas and vulvas. And they are all painted like food, which makes it even more delicious. But the but the reason I know, but but what that does is the event was created in honor of the 53 million women in the United States who were raped and sexually assaulted between
Wow.
2001 and 2021. So that's where I was inspired. I read that statistic and I thought, and then I just had this, how do I how do I give witness to that grief and that need for healing on
Oh
a
my
collective
goodness,
level? So,
Georgia.
wow, I'm sorry.
Let, no, no, no. I'm a perennial ongoing student, but back up a wee minute because I know that there's zillions of women here on the planet. But did I hear that there are 53? Did you say million women who have been sexually abused or traumatized in some way? Is that what I heard?
No, what I want to make clear is that's 53 million American women. That doesn't count the other countries.
Who have
Over a
been
20-year period, sexually abused,
sexually
raped,
traumatized in some way?
raped, and assaulted.
I had
So
no idea.
I
I
know. Now I want to make you understand that before the 53 million, there were millions and millions and millions and millions more. That was, and that of course was before there were even laws. So what we have is a generational
yes,
culture of disempowerment because of violence. So that
yes.
culture comes with us as women. So our
You
job is
know
to
what? This is so powerful. This is where we're going to take a quick break, but let me just share with you that education is powerful, and that's why we all need each other because we all gain and get different data and information that becomes useful for us. I knew that it was high and the percentage was astronomical, but I had no idea it was that high. So thank you for that. I'm going to take you to the green room for just a second. I want to take a quick little reset here, and then we're going to come back, and we're going to talk about one of my favorite words that I'm all about because it's about building community and sisterhood, which is what you're doing too in your fashion. So hold tight, and I'll be back to you in just a second. My
good.
friends, let me share with you this. This journey of divine feminine, of getting to the goddess within, it's never ending and it's ongoing and it's now, right here and now. If you are not a member of my Facebook group, Leading Ladies, Leaving Legacies, you belong there. Georgia is a member and about almost 700 more. And by the end of the year, I want it to be up to 1,000 and more, or even more than that, because this is where you belong. We need your vision, your mission, and your purpose out here in the stratosphere. And I would love it if you're not a member and you're listening here now or for the replay, go and join. The link is there. We need you there. And in conjunction with that, let me just put up this. I want you to just take a snapshot or a screenshot. This is one of Georgia's communities, bright spot communities, because she wants all of us to be a bright spot on the planet. And you know what? We can be. And we'll talk about that a wee bit later and give you more information so you can connect with her. And that said, let me go back because Georgia, you'll have to come back here because this is a conversation that we need to get more and more and more out there. Because just like I'm sitting here and I knew the number was astronomical, I had no idea it was that big, that large. But let's talk about the rebuilding of the sisterhood because I'm all about camaraderie,
Mhm.
connections, getting to know women, no copy, no comparing, no competing. Let's all unite. I say, not like Rodney King, whoever remembers him back in the day, let's all love one another. Yes, we can, but there might be different types of love. But how do we get to this sisterhood across racial, religion, social economics, and lifestyle differences? What are you doing and how are you implementing that mindset for all of us?
Well, I have to be honest. I think addressing the issue of trauma is a common place to start. We have to find common ground. And I don't really know any woman that hasn't had a trauma experience in one way or another. So, and we can understand trauma. So, finding that place of opportunity to speak to trauma connects us as sisters, connects us as people. And I've been longing for sisterhood for a long time because I originally bought into the male paradigm of power when I was, quote, successful. And
I
there
think
was,
we all did to an extent.
and we were
Yeah.
killing each other. We were out to get each other. We were out to
Yes.
win. And it's still out there. But we have this opportunity now to find each other in different ways and in different places. And I think that's where we must start, is to find each other again.
We must do that, Georgia. I completely concur with you there because we can't. That starting out just the way that you described it, many of us did, but we can't have any blame and no shame and no regret because it's, it is what it is. But it's time to move forward and to just get on an equal setting. And you know what? Real men who are raised by two-parent household where it's healthy, they want that. Both
Exactly.
sexes want that. So that's where we have to go. So that's how you see us as sisterhood coming more together and uniting to do what we have to do for each other.
I think yes. And, there are common issues that we have to unearth. It's just called creating and finding common ground. And usually that starts with, especially among women, family, heart, relationship, and meaning. Meaning.
Yes. And back to what you spoke about, the support of the emergence of this divine masculine and divine feminine, that's where we're at now. And I'm working predominantly with women. I think you're working with both sexes, but predominantly
Yes.
women too. But let's get rid of this toxic masculinity and all that where it's just all wrong now. We can't blame. However,
No.
we dropped the ball, whether we dropped it on purpose however, it's time to just step forward and do what we need to do for each other. I think that what you're talking about when you talk about the power of leadership for women and sisterhood and developing these communities, tell us a little bit about, you have so many projects that you're involved with, but one that I like is and we'll talk about it a wee bit later in the closing, but tell us a little bit about the Bright Spot community because I love, and sustainable communities. Tell us a little
Right.
bit about that.
Well, again, my vision for Bright Spot happened at the same time I had my mental health breakdown. Isn't that funny how God gave me all these visions
Yes,
and it was falling
yes.
apart? So I didn't understand it, but just like my own journey, Bright Spot has grown over the years. And at the simplest way to describe it, it's really designed as a holistic, integrated place, a community place. So the whole premise
Mm,
to make sure that the systems are all working together. We have brokenness in all of our communities. So that
yes,
word of integration and holism is not only represented in the activities within the community, because that resonates holism within people. When we have all the
right,
resources we need, we can
right.
become whole. And also equity. The communities that we will be building have a focus on equity, and that crosses many lines.
I
So
love that.
we're
I
looking
love the
to,
name too. Did you come
yeah,
up with the name Bright Spot? Because
well,
that's
that
Bright
that
Spot.
was from an angel. That from an angel. I'm not gonna lie. So, and it's been a journey. When you follow a vision and you don't know where you're going, you're just trying to stay in faith, and that really has been a delight. But we're going to see more and more the call to communities to change and to operate and
Yes,
do things differently, and that's that.
exactly.
They have to.
They have to, Georgia, because from my limited awareness and what I can see, and before the pandemic, I did a lot of volunteering. The residual rate of everybody, the younger and the older, repeating the same patterns over and over and over. That's ending. It's going. But let me go back to something we all know, more or less, most of us, what a sustainable community is all about. But share with us a little bit more about how you see it and what you're doing and how you're implementing that in the work that you're doing, because you are now an organizational consultant and developer of
Yes,
sustainable communities. So share with
yes.
us a little bit about that as we end.
Well, first and foremost, we are making housing affordable and also energy efficient and more safe. So the housing product that we're using is with a partner I have in Paris, France. So they've developed an amazing housing product. So first and foremost, let's make housing equitable and reachable, since so many people can't even afford housing at this point. And then the next level really is to make sure that how we create that community is also equitable. So we have people involved at the very center of that creation experience. These are really small ways, and secondarily, because all of that creates the loop of the culture of something being positive and sustainable. If people are engaged, actively creating
Yes.
their community, the community is there. And lastly, we are intentional about bringing in renewable energy technologies in
Wow.
every aspect of the community through another business partnership I have in Canada. So we have
Oh,
not
that's
just
great.
solar panels, but waste to energy energy systems. I mean, so our plan is to really make clean energy normal. Normal.
I
I
love
walk outside and I see a wind turbine. I walk outside and I see an agriculture center.
Let me ask you something. No naive, crazy, dumb questions, but these sustainable communities, are they being designed mainly for the underserved, the underprivileged, underrepresented? I mean, who takes it, who walks into these types of communities?
You know, for the
Everyone? Not
last really for the last 50 years, sustainable communities have kind of been kind of your average hippie kind of thing, looking for utopia. The whole
yes,
premise of the company is to make it come. This is just making different choices. There's no reason why we can't be building this way. It's just
yes.
we have developers more interested in profit than well-being. And
Uh-huh.
I'm surely interested in making money, but I'm here to create well-being. So, it's all about how you do it, choosing to do it differently. And I'm breaking that matrix in the
Good for
real estate.
you. And good for you, George. And you know why? Because one of the groups that I work with, the group that I'm working with through this organization, I cannot tell you, and prior to even doing this, how many times I've heard them say, and what you just said, people want to be engaged and they want to be a part of the endeavor. So you ask what they need and what would be affordable and what would be workable and what would be conducive to blah, blah, blah. What happens is that so many of these companies and organizations, they don't even ask. They just plan it all together, orchestrate it, and that's it. And that's what you're getting away from.
Right. And I did want to say, the communities that we're building for people in need, for people not in need, people with wealth, it doesn't matter.
Yes,
It's about a whole redesign of how we build communities for everybody. And of course,
received.
homelessness is a priority. But this is accessible to everyone. That's my
I
goal.
love that. I love that. That's expressed so beautifully. I have to tell you that you have so much on your plate and you're doing so much. How many nonprofit organizations do you have? Two, three? You have
No,
two, I think.
no, I don't. All my companies are companies, they're businesses, but I have partnerships with nonprofit organizations.
Ah,
Yeah,
okay.
so
Got it.
my
I see.
that's another paradigm shift is we are going to be moving into a partnership paradigm in our communities. So, it's about
I
doing what you
love
do
it.
well and bringing in what you need from others.
Yes. Well, that's what it's all about. Because you know what,
Mm.
Georgia, I know this and you know this because of your journey, and I know it because of mine. No matter how gifted we are, what skills we come with, that goddess that we pop out of the womb with knowing or in the process of getting to know, whatever it is, the skills and gifts that we have. And as Les Brown said, everybody has greatness, but your greatness needs somebody else to help you to
Yeah.
align and awaken and showcase that. So we all need each other. And you
Yes.
have to be loving and diplomatic and compassionate when you meet and greet any, every, and all, because you just never know. So I
Right.
just think what you're doing is phenomenal. The time goes here. I say the same darn thing every week, but it's just what it is. Share with us a little bit more about, Kirill is going to put up the poster about your Bright Spots community, how people can align with you. I think we have been scrolling across all of your information so people can connect with you. We have your phone number and your email address. And I
Yeah.
think she's going to put up another one. So tell us a little bit more about this and what you want from people to connect with
Well,
you.
you know, if you are somebody who is interested in creating healing spaces, I, of course, would love to talk with you because we can do that in communities using art and all kinds of creative ways to really begin that discussion or raise that awareness of, hey, there's woundedness here that must be healed. So how you can find me in many ways across the internet. Now, when it comes to bright spot communities, there's a lot of folks who are interested in building unique communities right now and finding
Ah.
their own unique niche. So feel free to give me a call if you want to explore.
Oh my God. Thank you, Georgia. Georgia, you must
Yeah.
come back again because there's so much that you're doing, and I could only highlight and touch on certain parts of it. But thank you for sharing. I honor you and the work that you're doing. Carilla's going to put you in the green room. You say goodbye to the audience, and I'll be with you in just a
Thanks so
second.
much, everyone.
Thank
Have a
you.
good one. Bye bye.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. My friends, every week it's the same story, but it's what it is. It's always a pleasure to bring these dynamic people to you to share their journey, their mission, and their calling with you. And your assignment, my friend, you know I love homework, is that you come and share your journey, your mission, and what your calling is all about so we can get you out into the stratosphere. We go out over 137 different platforms, and we're building, as Georgia is a great community of women who are going to be about collaborating and getting to know each other. Have a great week. Enjoy the rest of it and make sure that you realize and take to heart much love from my heart to yours. Be and stay well. All the best. Cheers. Oh my goodness, Georgia.